After a day off, the Raiders are back on the practice field this morning. So what will I be looking for? Who will I be looking for? That plus more on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 6, 2026.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one sports podcast network. Of course, we're very proud of that. We're also very proud of the fact that this show continues to grow each and every day, and that's because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. That's why we shout him out. We appreciate him. You can find Ari on Twitter at Ari Produces. You could hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we have the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. As we normally do, we'll close out the show hearing from you. Calls, texts, a lot of really good feedback on a bunch of different subjects that we've been talking about, and even just talking about training camp and players in general. So tons of feedback. We'll try to get as many calls and texts in as possible. We'll do that in segment number 3. Segment number 2, I wanted to bring a subject to the table that my guy Hardcore Raider brought to the table for me on my radio show on Wednesday. Sent me a direct message on Twitter and said, hey, Q, I don't know if you already have a subject for today, but I had a couple questions that I want to throw out there and get your opinion on it. And I turned it into a subject on my radio show. So I want to go ahead and share that coming up in segment number 2. Every idea doesn't have to come out of my brain, right? So, these things happen organically. Thought it was a really good subject that he brought to the table. So we'll discuss that in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, little minor roster moves, plus who and what I'll be looking for as the Raiders get back to practice this morning. We'll get into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is KALSHI. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use promo code LOCKEDON. It's all one word to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. So, off top, Raiders made minor roster moves on Wednesday, and these things are going to continue to happen throughout the course of training camp. Nothing real major at all going on. It's just this is kind of how you go through training camp. You bring guys in, you move on from them. You bring guys in, you move on from them. You try guys out, and that's just the nature of the beast. So on Wednesday, the Raiders signed tight end from Temple, Chris Myrick. He joins the Raiders after spending the 2025 season on the Dolphins practice squad, entering his 4th NFL season after initially entering the league in 2019 as an undrafted free agent with the Dolphins. 6'5", 261. He's played in 27 games with 11 starts since entering the league, 3 games with the Dolphins in 2020, 24 games across 2 seasons with the Giants in 2021 and 2022. He's recorded 10 receptions for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns in his career. So, yeah, you heard it right. He hasn't played a game since 2022, right? He's a guy that I look at as a camp body, right? We know that Big Michael Mayer, he busted his nose, according to head coach Clint Kubiak, and as he said, he'll be all right. Well, the last time we saw him out there on the practice field was Tuesday, and he was out there, but he wasn't out there participating. So I'm sure that that's the reason why they brought in a new tight end, and to make room for him, they had to waive some folks. So they waived Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion that they just brought in as well, and then Tanner Wall, the defensive back from Brigham Young, the safety, they waived him as well. So again, just minor moves that are happening, nothing to get too worked up about. I'm sure Big Mike's going to be fine, but I'm assuming that the presence of the new tight end that they just brought in has to do with Big Mike. So he'll be somebody that I'm looking forward to seeing today. Hopefully we see 87 out there, not just him out there observing, but him out there participating. But again, I don't know the severity of his nose in that situation. Like Clint Kubiak said, he'll be all right. So that's all that we can really go off of. So again, the Raiders back at practice, 7:30 this morning. They'll go about 7:30 to 9:30. We'll talk to coaches and players afterwards. I'm expected to be talking to second-year cornerback Darian Porter out of Iowa State. He's the guy that's flashed a few times in camp, and so I think that he's really starting to come into his own, at least get comfortable in that position. Not saying that he's some lockdown guy or he's going to be the one that's going to be the starter across from Eric Stokes, but he is a guy that looks like he's more comfortable and more understanding of the role now that he's in year number 2. So who will I be looking for? What will I be looking for as the players get back on the practice field? I mentioned Big Mike. Definitely want to see if he returns to the practice field. I do believe he'll be out there observing, but I'm going to be interested to see if he's out there, with the jersey on and he's actually out there practicing. I don't expect him to be in pads today, but I don't know that. It hasn't been confirmed one way or the other, so we'll find out when we get out there, and of course I'll talk about it coming up on tomorrow's show. So Big Mike back practicing. Would love to see it. Not guaranteeing we're going to see that. Malik Benson. He's been getting a lot of attention. We've been talking about Malik Benson, the 6th-round pick wide receiver out of Oregon, quite a bit. I don't know what he's going to end up being. I know some people have already penciled him in as the wide receiver number 3 and that he's already passing Jack Besh and Dante Thornton Jr., and he's going to be that guy out there with Speedy Naylor and Trey Tucker. I'm not willing to do that just yet. I'm not willing to go there. I do believe that he's going to be a key contributor when it comes to the punt return and kick return game, and he does look good at the wide receiver position right now, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, and I don't want to write anybody else off. So I'm not going to write off Jack Besh, not going to write off Dante Thornton Jr., not going to write off Shedrick Jackson. There's 90 guys on this roster right now. They have plenty of time to make a name for themselves. They haven't even played one preseason game. Now, if you're looking at the calendar, you'll notice next Thursday at this time, they will be getting ready for their first preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals. And even a couple days before that, on the 11th, they'll have their scrimmage at Allegiant Stadium. So that's one that's open to the public to come out there. It's a $5 ticket, which goes to, the Raider Foundation. So no big deal. Raiders.com. You want to get involved in that. You want to get to Allegiant Stadium for $5 to get in the building and check out the Raiders. That's a hell of a deal right there. So that's on the 11th. And, of course, their first preseason game is there against the Cardinals. So that's coming up, and that's when you'll start to see something. And remember, it's a little bit more difficult to even judge with the preseason games because 2 out of the 3 preseason games that the Raiders are playing in are against opponents that they're going to be playing in the regular season in 2026. So, of course, it's already vanilla during the preseason. It's even going to be more vanilla, more plain Jane, more dumbed down, more simple than ever, just because they're not going to give anything away when they're playing these opponents in the regular season. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. But Malik Benson, all you could do is keep stacking days. These guys that are out there playing well and that we keep coming back and saying, man, he's showing up. All you got to do is keep stacking days. If you keep stacking days, by the time it's all said and done, you will have passed certain players and you will be, higher on the depth chart. That's how you got to get there. That goes the same for, Hezekiah Masses and Jamad McCoy, 2 guys in the secondary, rookies that I'm looking at, 5th round pick and a 4th round pick. 2 guys that I've said look the part. And Hezekiah Masses is actually ahead of Jamad McCoy. And especially since Jamad McCoy is coming back from the injury, you still, kind of understand that the Raiders are going to bring him along. I don't want to say slowly because he's been out there every single day, but he's not running with the ones yet, but he has been out there with Masses. Masses looks really good, but again, it's going to be up to him to continue to stack days. I mentioned last time they practiced on Tuesday that DeCam Richardson looked really good, and, he's a guy that, I at points have written off, right? And I'm making sure that I don't do that this year, write anybody off. I've had a history of doing that at times. I see a certain player, I'm like, yeah, they're not going to cut it. They've had too much time to, figure it out, and they haven't done it yet, so I don't expect too much from them. And then I'm proven to be wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and play the long game, and I'm going to wait. But DCAM looked really good on Tuesday. Actually looked good on Monday as well. How does he come back after having a day off? Can he go ahead and, rest and recover and then, boom, get right back at it? Obviously, it's a big training camp and a very big year for DeCam Richardson. And then Traden Stukes, the 2nd-round pick out of Arizona, the guy that I said was a day 1 starter. Him and Trey Zune, I had penciled in as day 1 starter. And, a lot of people are talking about Stukes and his one-on-one drills. I always say that one-on-ones, when it goes the, wide receiver versus the safety or wide receiver versus the corner, that's set up for the offense to have success. We've seen Stukes, not be able to be great in coverage, especially when they're running a slant into the middle of the field. That one-on-one, you run a slant in the middle of the field, that's a win for the offense every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. So I don't take a whole lot from what I've seen from Stukes in practice. He hasn't done anything wow. He hasn't been like, Hezekiah Masses or Jamad McCoy where you see them consistently in the hip pocket of the wide receiver, but he's also a guy that can play the safety role. He can play the big nickel role. So I'm really interested to see more of him when they get, an opportunity to get into the 11-on-11, the team drills, and, obviously when they get into a preseason game as well. But just like Jack Besh, him being a 2nd-round pick, there's a lot of expectations that he can, show up and show out and be a day 1 starter as he should be, right? When you're a 2nd-round pick, expectations are for you to be a starting player no matter what position you are. So that's kind of what I'll be looking for today. Just really want to see if the Raiders could continue to have consistency with some of these guys that have been playing really well. And then some of the guys that maybe we're not talking about, 1 or 2 of those guys step up as well. So Big Mike back at practice. Malik Benson, keep stacking days. Hezekiah Masses, Jamad McCoy, same thing. Traden Stukes, please stand up. Please stand up. I want to see a little bit more from him. And what does DeCam Richardson have coming up next? Can he have another really good day of practice? Can he start to get more people's attention? So there's more players to talk about, obviously, but those are just a handful of guys that I'll be focused in on at practice later on this morning. But my guy, Hardcore Raider, he had 3 really good questions that have to do with position groups with the silver and black. I'll go ahead and explain it. I'll break it down. I'll give you my answers. We'll do that coming up. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is KALSHI. Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division, who makes the playoffs, who's lifting the trophy at season's end. On KALSHI, America's #1 prediction market platform, you could trade those predictions in a live market. So, will the Raiders qualify for the playoffs this season? If not the Raiders, then who's going to qualify from the AFC West, right? And how many wins are the Raiders going to have? How many wins is the best team in the AFC West going to have, right? Is it going to take 10 wins to win the division? Is it going to take 12? What's that going to be? There's a lot of different directions you can go and a lot of trading you can do. Who's going to win the NFC? Who's going to win the AFC? Who's going to be playing in the big game when it's all said and done? On KALSHI, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on KALSHI. All you got to do is download the KALSHI app and use promo code LOCKEDON. It's all one word to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI, KALSHI. KALSHI. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contact. Trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. KALSHI products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I mention it all the time that sometimes a topic will be thrown my way. Someone will hit me with a call. Someone will hit me with a text. Sometimes it's a direct message. And that's what my guy Hardcore Raider did on Wednesday when he hit me up and said, I don't know, if you have a topic already for the radio show this afternoon, unnecessary roughness, but here's something to throw your way. And so it was a really good message that he sent me. It was a pretty lengthy message, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to summarize it really quickly and break it on down the way I interpreted what he had to say. Basically, what position group are you most fired up about? What position will get the Raiders an extra win or 2 this season? And any position group you think will surprise the league. I thought that was really good. Like I said, it was a lengthy message, but that was the best way to summarize it, as I put it in my own words. What position group are you most fired up about? What position will get the Raiders an extra win or 2? And any position group you think will surprise the league. So, off top, you know how I live and you know how I roll. DBs win games. So I'm really excited and fired up about the secondary, the new look secondary. Anytime that a team goes and invests 4 different draft picks in a position group, that's something to get excited about because, 1, they know that a group needed to be addressed. And 2, you believe that they got guys that can be immediate impact players. And I do believe that the Raiders have that. Even going back to trading Stukes, right, the 2nd-round pick. Dalton Johnson, right, the safety. He was his teammate there at Arizona. So you feel really good about those 2 guys. They already have the communication down. Then Hezekiah Mass is the guy that we've been talking about quite a bit. Excited about him, especially since he's already popping in training camp. And then Jamad McCoy might be the steal of the draft, the 4th-round pick that was a first-round talent, but dropped to the 4th round due to injury. Oh, don't forget, they traded for Teron Johnson from Buffalo and signed Eric Stokes back, right? And Eric Stokes has been super sticky in coverage so far in training camp. So that whole secondary. Oh, and Darian Porter, the guy that I'm supposed to talk to today, yeah, he's in his 2nd year and he looks better. So all of a sudden now you went from a secondary that Caillou Blue Kelly was one of your guys last year, right? It was Caillou Blue Kelly going up against Darian Porter. Caillou Blue Kelly actually led the team or tied the team with interceptions with 3 last year. He's not even in the league anymore. Think about that. Your guy that led the team in interceptions from a year ago is not even in the league, right? That's how much of a revamp the Raiders did with the secondary. So that's what got me fired up. The secondary all day, every day. And I know that, the defensive line and the secondary, they go hand in hand. The secondary is not good if the defensive line doesn't get home. The defensive line doesn't get home if the secondary is not good. I get that. They go hand in hand. But for me and my money, secondary is what's got me fired up. What position group will get the Raiders an extra win or 2? My answer was the running backs, Ashton Genty and Mike Washington Jr. And the reason why I said that, and rock with me here, is because I believe as long as they're able to run the ball, and that offensive line has to be effective enough to open up holes, we get that, right? But if they're able to run the ball consistently and Ashton Genty is able to get loose and do his thing and even average 1 more yard per carry than he did last year, the Raiders will be able to have a little bit of ball control. And if the Raiders are able to get a little bit of ball control, some of these games that you're looking at, the schedule is tough. But if they have some sustained drives, that limits the amount of time that the opposing team's offense is on the field. That limits the time that the Raiders' defense is on the field, and it keeps those guys fresh. So I do believe that this defense is going to be able to, hold some teams for a while, but they're not going to be able to stay out there and sustain it all game long. Like we saw even last year, there'd be times where the defense looks good early, but then it's just like the dam breaks because they're out there the whole time. Well, if the Raiders have a sustained drive, if they're able to have longer drives and longer time of possession, I believe they can steal a game at the end. Maybe it's a field goal, maybe it's a touchdown, maybe the defense comes up and makes a big play at the end to save it. But it's going to take ball control. It's going to take holding on to the rock, having sustained drives, and I think the running backs are going to play a major role in that. Obviously, the quarterback play is going to be important. Obviously, Brock Bowers is the dude. Needs to have someone step up from the wide receiver position. But those running backs, I think, are going to be a real big key to the success of this Raiders offense. And everywhere Clint Kubiak's been, you've seen a very successful running game. So the Raiders are going to need to have that to be able to, maintain and stay on the field. And that's why I think the running back room, if any, is going to help the Raiders get an extra win or two. And then finally, any position group you think will surprise the league. And I went with the wide receivers. I just mentioned the wide receiver, but I went with the wide receivers, and this is why. If someone emerges from that wide receiver room to all of a sudden be a true complement to Brock Bowers, who's their number one target, even though a tight end, if they can have somebody emerge and be that guy, then all of a sudden what the league has been saying and what all these smart people, analysts, way smarter than me, have been saying, the Raiders need this, the Raiders need that, they don't have this. Oh, that wide receiver room is a lot to be desired. Maybe Malik Benson is the guy that steps up. That's a 6th-round pick. Maybe it's Jalen Naylor, a guy that they prioritize in free agency. Maybe it's Trey Tucker in the last year of his deal, right? Jack Besh is available. Dante Thornton is available. One of those guys. If someone emerges as that go-to guy that is a compliment to Brock Bowers, then all of a sudden you're cooking with grease, because now you have a true compliment at the wide receiver room. You have Brock Bowers, you have Big Mike, you have Ashton Genty, you have Mike Washington, you got Kirk Cousins, you've got Fernando Mendoza, you've got Max Crosby defensively, you got Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean in the linebacker room, you've got a secondary that's revamped. Again, you start to see how this all comes together, but you need guys to step up. And I don't know who that's going to be in the wide receiver room yet. There's capable bodies. I just went through the names. If somebody could step up, though, and truly be an actual compliment to Brock Bowers. They're not going to be better than that guy. Like, that would be foolish to think that. They're not going to be better than him. But if somebody can emerge and be that guy to be a real compliment. It's funny, James Jones was there at practice just the other day, and I asked him straight up, they're trying to do kind of wide receiver by committee where there's not a true number one guy. And everyone's saying, hey, we don't really need to put a number on it. We're just going to go out there and do our thing, and we can do multiple things. And he said, yeah, that's cool. But you really ideally want to have a guy that you feel like exactly what you're going to get, and he's going to be that guy that will really play off of Brock and allow him to stay clean, meaning not be doubled and triple covered all the time. Right. And they just say, well, we just got to stop 89, and we don't think that any of these other guys can beat us. Right. Who can step up and be a guy that they have to respect and honor and say he has a chance to beat us, or he has a chance to take it to the house if we don't pay attention. Tucker's got speed. Benson's got speed. Thornton's got speed. Can it be one of those guys? Besh, I think he could be a possession receiver. I think he can continue to move the sticks. Can it be him? Somebody's gonna need to step up. And if they can, that would be the position group to surprise the league, because nobody thinks the Raiders have a wide receiver that's worth the salt right now. Everyone I talk to, and I talk to people on the daily, everyone thinks, the wide receiver room, the Raiders, they're going to need that. And you know what? They might. After it's all said and done this season, you might go into the offseason and the draft, say, yep, got to go get a guy in free agency, got to go get a guy in the draft, got to go get a combination of the two. We'll find out sooner rather than later, right? Before we know it, everything will be real. The lights will be on, it'll be nice and bright, and the games will matter. We'll be talking about September 13th, first week against the Miami Dolphins. But if they can get one guy in that wide receiver room to step up and show out, I think that'll be a big surprise across the National Football League. But again, that's a big if a guy can do that. But those are the questions that Hardcore asked me. I'll throw it out there to you. 707-654-4693. What position group are you most fired up about? What position will get the Raiders an extra win or two in your opinion? And any position group you think will surprise the league. Let me know your thoughts. Again, 707-654-4693. We'll actually hear from you as we close out the show. We'll do that next here on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor we have here on the show, and that's Gametime. There are more live events than ever we're seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between the long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it really should. And that's why so many fans are turning into Gametime, the app that is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities that help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Gametime. I'm talking concerts, sporting events, comedy shows, you name it, they've got it. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts. You have that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, do want to thank you so much for making this the first listen of the day. Up top, got a call from Heavy D from south of Buffalo. He's calling to talk about camp coverage, talk about Jack Besh, talking about many missed draft picks, and also a couple questions about guys that are out there right now. Here he is, Heavy D.
This is your man, Heavy D, calling from south of Buffalo. Hey, I just want to say, first and foremost, I really appreciate and love your camp coverage. I love that you're not a hot take guy. You're there on the ground. You're talking to former pros. You're talking to people in the know. You know, I hear all these people trying to provide Raider content that are not at practice, giving their emphatic and very confident assertions. So I really appreciate you. And you were the first guy that broke the news that Alex Leatherwood was not going to pan out. I remember you talking about how he had to go take a knee because he was getting beat so bad in practice, and you even said, I think he might get released. And I thought, Q, you're crazy. He was a first-round pick. There's no way he gets released. And you were right. So you've earned my respect, and I appreciate your analysis always. So just keep us informed of Jack Besh. He's my new heartbreaker. Because as a Raider fan, the most disappointing thing over the last 20-some years has been our draft picks. And it just breaks my heart that we could have had like Luther Burden, but we traded back twice. And then those guys so far have just been depth pieces. And as a Raider fan, I mean, I could just trot out all the names and we'd all be heartbroken together. Alex Leatherwood, Tyree Wilson, Cleve Farrell, the Reach, Abram, the Reach, Garyon Conley, Joseph. Just the list goes on and on and on. And it just, when you tell me that Besh isn't popping, it just breaks my heart. It's like, we can't have another miss. It should have been a high second round pick, just yet another miss. So I'm going to be listening to you on Besh especially. Tell us what you think about Stooks, because I'm reading that he's not popping, but I haven't really heard it from you. So I'm a little concerned there because I was with you lockstep. I wanted Caden McDonald. I thought that was a bigger need, and I kind of felt like the coaching staff got laser focused on Stooks and a safety when maybe Caden being there should have been the call. So I'll be listening every day. And before I believe anybody else's commentary, I'm going to put what you say much more stock in that. So keep us informed, my man. And Raider Nation, y'all have a great day.
It's the overweight lover, Heavy D. Girls, they love me. It's the overweight lover, Heavy D. Rest in peace to Heavy D. Heavy D and the boys. But Heavy D, south of Buffalo, thanks so much for the call and the compliments on the show. And my style, just to provide all I can, man. That's all I'm really doing. Just trying to go out there and provide as much as I can. Try to get you out there and so you can see what I see, hear what I see, or hear, and kind of feel what I feel, right? I mean, that's kind of my responsibility, is just to, get you as close to the action as possible, right? As far as Jack Besh, no, he hasn't popped yet. right? I mean, he seems like he's in a good place. When he met with us at the podium on, what was it, Tuesday, he met with us. He's still grinding. He's still working. He's got a positive attitude. That's who he is. He had a nice catch on one-on-ones versus Zeke Masses, getting him with the little stop-and-go move, and Masses fell down, and Besh got open. Nice catch. It would have been a touchdown. Just needs to keep working. That's it. I think he's going to learn, or we'll learn more about him in the actual games. As far as Stukes, he's a gamer. He's a guy that a lot of people are talking about, and I talked to my guy, Vinny Bonsignor, and he's like, hey, they feel really good about Stukes, but we'll see, right? One-on-one individuals, wasn't really, real big on that, but we'll see what happens moving forward. A second-round pick, just like Jack Besh, high expectations, no doubt about it. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Sack Raider Tom. Says, Q, I heard you calling out Masses as one to watch this year. I watched a great interview with him today on the Raiders channel. We may have a real gem here. He played receiver in high school, so he has that natural receiver instincts. He had 18 pass breakups last year, most of all backs. When asked to describe himself, he said savvy and greedy, and he seems very respectful. As I've never heard of so many yes sirs in an interview. Fits perfect with Kubiak's personality. Look forward to seeing him out there on the field. Have a great day, Q. That's Sack Raider Tom. Yeah, that's the thing about Masses, man. And my guy Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com, he actually sat down with him and had a really good interview and wrote some good stuff up on him on Raiders.com. Definitely encourage everyone to go check that out. And he was on my radio show on Wednesday, and that's exactly what he was saying about Zeke Masses. This guy, he was a wide receiver in high school. When he sees the ball, he wants it to be his, so he goes and gets that. Look, there's no question about what he can do as far as in the passing game when it comes to breaking up passes, getting his hands on the ball and taking it away. Everything that I talk about when it comes to DBs, he's just got to be able to be physical at the point of attack. That's why I was interested to see what it looked like once he put the pads on, and it's only been 2 days with the pads on, and so far so good. Can he maintain that? Can he keep that up throughout the course of training camp, preseason games, and roll that into the regular season? If so, that very well could be your starting corner across from Eric Stokes. Like, I have that much high belief in him that he could be the starting corner as a 5th-round pick, but he's got to be able to be physical. He's got to be able to tackle. He's got to be able to get off blocks. He's got to be able to get behind his shoulder pads, right? He can't be a guy that's out there and feeling like it's 7-on-7. And again, to his credit so far, he looks the part. He really does. He looks like he fits. He looks like he's natural. He is a very respectful dude, and he takes to teaching really well too. Whenever the coaches are telling him something and, hey, do this again, this is what you're supposed to, you don't see any pushback. He's out there doing. He's out there putting in the work. So I easily could see him as a guy that could be a starter. But again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. He's definitely got a lot of work to do, as all these guys have a lot of work to do. But thanks for the text. I definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from JD9. He's calling it, or no, JD909, excuse me. He's calling to talk about IPA, Isaiah Pola-Mao, because he has not heard much about him during training camp, and then really kind of gets into the safety position in general. Here he is, JD909.
Yo, what up, Q? It's JD909. Calling in. Ready for the season. It's about to start. Ready for this football to start tomorrow. Jeez, but hey, I wanna just find out, like, football Pola-Mao. Haven't heard anything about him this whole, like, off season or anything. Like, is he, like, doing bad, or, like, what's the deal with him? 'Cause I know he was one of, like, ranked, like, one of the worst safeties in coverage last year and stuff like that. And I haven't heard much about Stukes either. Like, we have a problem over there in safety. Like, I know they've been putting that new cornerback, Johnson or whatever, Taron Johnson. Just wanna hear what you got to say about the rest of the safeties, man. 'Cause I haven't heard nothing about them other than Chin. I love what you do, Q. Just pumped up for this season, though, you know. I'm out.
JD, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. I think Pola-Mao's been solid. He's going into the last year of his deal, so I thought he was going to be really fighting for his job, and not as he's not going to be on the roster, but a guy that, maybe he's not a starter. Maybe less is more for Isaiah. But I haven't seen anyone really push him yet. Is that going to be Stukes? Well, as we've said, he hasn't stepped up yet. I did call trading Stukes a day one starter after he got drafted. I think that's his expectations, being a second-round pick. As I mentioned before, it's same as Jack Besh. He needs to be able to be making plays. But from what we've seen, again, one-on-one drills, haven't seen much from him in that. Seen him in team drills, kind of running with the twos. Haven't seen him running with the ones yet. And when he does, and if he does make that move, we'll definitely talk about it. But he hasn't done anything that just really stands out as of yet. So we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But thanks so much for the call. Do appreciate you. And we'll take one more text. This one comes from Buster in Sacktown. He says, Yo, Q, Buster from Sack here. Great episode today. Wanted to follow up on Michael Mayer. I agree. I'd like to see him re-sign. With development of tight ends typically taking longer due to having to learn routes and blocking schemes, adding in Kubiak using the 12 personnel more often, do you think Mayer will be more involved on a weekly basis? If so, any glimpses from camp so far? That's Buster in Sacramento. Buster, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, again, 2 padded practices, right? 6 total practices. Today is day 7, and I don't even know if Big Mike's going to be out there because of the busted nose. Couple things with him. One, he's got to be available. So far throughout the course of his career, one thing has happened or the other. He's had concussions. He stepped away for personal reasons. He wasn't getting used by the coaching staff. But one, he's got to make sure he's available more times than not. He has the ability. The 12 personnel package is there. Kubiak will definitely use it. There's a role, and he was featured early in camp. You saw him catching a lot of passes early on. Brock, you already know what he's going to do. He's just got to be out there. He's got to be available. And if he can go and have a big year, and again, we say it every single year, how great it would be to see Big Mike, be in that 12 personnel and really be used in multiple ways outside of just a blocker. But he's going to have to do it. He's going to have to put in the work, and they're going to have to use him. If anyone's going to use him, I would say it's going to be, Clint Kubiak. But again, until we see it, we don't know. And then on top of that, like I said, it's on him to make sure he's available. So thanks so much for that text. Do appreciate you. Got a call from Brian in Winnipeg. We'll get that tomorrow. Text from Mark in Visalia. We'll get that tomorrow as well. Again, I'm supposed to speak with Darian Porter, the second-round cornerback out of Iowa State. Supposed to be talking to him after practice today. Looking forward to them being back out there. Of course, we'll give you a full recap on Friday's show. I do believe there's a Raiders squad show today. Chantel Chan and Lincoln Kennedy. Know me. I'm not going to be there because of practice, and the times just weren't going to work. So I do believe it's this morning from 7:30 to 8:30. So definitely tune into them. And like I said, I'll give you a full recap of practice as we close out the week really strong. Calls, texts, all that good stuff. We'll do that on Friday's show. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.